And we are live. My name's JP Berg, and this is Dumb the Wiser. We're rolling solo today. I'm going to field some questions from the chat and express my dismay with the continued managed decline of Canada. I start these things, I have no real topic in mind beyond that. And then I just build from there. It's totally off the cuff, so to speak. But the pertinent thing to address, the one that we should prioritize above everything else right now, is the censorship. Bill C8 and C9, they're endeavoring to remove our tongues and render us voiceless so the rest of the world can't hear our screams. Now, that's definitely hyperbolous, but it's also very apt. That's exactly what they're doing. We all predicted this. We have a really good proximity to garner what's coming next in Canada with the UK. Keir Starmer represents the exact same oligarchical interests that Carney represents. It's seemingly evident. It's like I frequently say this, and people who watch this show, the handful of people that watch this show regularly, they're probably tired of this, but what lends credence to this assertion of this being some kind of oligarchical globalist agenda is the fact that it's happening everywhere. If these detrimental policies were being enacted in Canada solely, then if it was happening in a vacuum, we could kind of arrive at the conclusion that maybe it's this really bad government, really incompetent governance. Maybe it's really bad policies. But it's not. It's happening broadly in all of the Commonwealth countries and in most of the Western democratic countries. The only ones where you're seeing resistance would be America, Italy, Hungary, Poland. Now, there's populist candidates. Now, I call them populist. Everyone else likes to say far right. I think what's happening goes beyond the left-right dichotomy. So I don't use that term. But we're seeing populist candidates popular in all of these countries, but in the EU, they're just stealing elections. Most of our electorate in Canada are just entirely enamored, captured by this uniparty. Pierre Poilievre gets up there and sloppily regurgitates his scripted and feckless rhetoric. He, after running, analysis on how the populace will react, he'll finally speak to a contentious issue. I think he finally mentioned something regarding the ostriches. But I mean, for me, when I look at the ostriches, and I don't want to trivialize the extent of how foul this is, and I do also realize that it encapsulates a lot of the issues with the government overreach, but I feel like we're in a perpetual psyop in Canada. And when I see this ostriches situation taking all of the attention, I try to look around. I scan the perimeter and see, well, what else is going on politically right now? Well, it just so happens that they're actually trying to push through these bills, these just crazy hate speech and censorship bills. I know there's a lot of people in Canadian alternative media that are analyzing these bills and getting into the details, and that's crucial. But I want to reach the masses with what these bills actually represent. I'm not going to mire this down with the language they use, which is intentionally utilized in order to convolute the broader meaning, which is this lets the government set the parameters of acceptable discourse. We are entering Orwellian level dystopia with this. Any slight deviation from the rigid and radical orthodoxy of the ruling class will be construed as mis, dis, or malinformation. Again, just like we've seen in the UK. Any criticisms, even reasonable criticisms of their immensely detrimental immigration policies, well, they'll be construed as hate speech. You will be characterized as some kind of a far-right bigot, and they will not tolerate dissent. That's the premise behind all of this. Just like any other authoritarian regime, they don't want to have to dedicate resources into enforcing this. They want us all to live in a perpetual state of fear with the government. You live in a society where the citizens fear the government, it's not a good situation. It should very much be the reverse. But your average Canadian, your average Westerner, our conception of the role of government is just, it's been influenced by like massive inundation with ideological subversion, specifically from our school curriculum, but it's broader in the culture. It's like Netflix. That's kind of taken the hot seat right now in the culture war because of the blatant trans propaganda that it's pushing. This whole conception of gender being an abstract, sex being reinterpreted as gender being an abstraction, and therefore it could be infinitely interpreted into meaning whatever, and just it's just fallacious. It's predicated on social constructivism, a postmodernist type of philosophical framework, and the fact that it's on such absolutely sketchy grounds philosophically, and yet here we are teaching it as gospel to our children. Speaking of gospel, that's one thing that is now you're not allowed to talk to about children in any regard. It's being pulled from everywhere. That's suspect, considering. But let's check this chat out here. I get to rambling, guys. I do apologize. So we have Sue Kellen Dyer. Sue's going to come on the show with me. We actually should send me a DM, Sue. I'd like to schedule an appearance with you whenever it's convenient. And good day to you. We have Prairie. Prairie is a loyal viewer. God bless you, Prairie. Thank you. You're one of the handful of people that actually watch this show with regularity, and I'm immensely grateful for that. I hope you're having a lovely, lovely day thus far. Wandering Dragon reposted the stream. God bless you, and thank you for reminding me. I'm immensely deboosted. Anyone who's truly alternative, who's truly an independent and alternative voice in Canada, are just being buried. We're just being decimated by this algorithm suppression. At the same time, they're boosting all of these insincere, fake independent voices in the algorithm. And more come every day. People just hero worshiping the controlled opposition, Pierre Poilievre. They don't want to break you out of this left-right thing, which is just bullshit. It's truly bullshit. But yeah, that's a great point. Everyone has to repost this, like it, share it, repost it, send it to your neighbors, send it to your friends. And I'm going to keep doing this until they stop me. And again, I think they will. I think that's the premise of Bill C-8 specifically. They can deem any voice a danger to the broader public and just cut off your internet access. Canadians don't realize the gravity of all this. Like, this is totalitarianism. We have a regime that seems to be not representing the interests or the better interests of Canadians, their constituents, in this Carney regime. They are very much implementing an agenda. They're very much a representative of oligarchical interests. I'll use the WEF. That's become such a buzz term now. But I mean, these type orders, I mean, they're very much, if you think the political class is what's making the decisions, you're woefully uninformed. Like, there's the banking class above the political class. It's a private banking class. It's a network, as Quigley put. I'm just reading Tragedy and Hope, or Hope and Tragedy. And it explains some of the secrets and the secret societies behind all of this. And I know that sounds, once you start talking about this, and it's relative to our own programming, people turn their minds off. They're like, that's sensational. But I don't think we're there anymore. I think if you don't accept that there's some people, some nefarious interests that are influencing our politics presently in the West, I think you're naive. I don't think the people that are seeing this are paranoid. I really don't. So they can use conspiracy theorist as a pejorative. What they mean when they say that is crackpot theorist. But I mean, as soon as they stop blatantly conspiring, perhaps we could stop theorizing. Until then, I'll do my best. But yeah, I mean, if there's one thing we can unify together in Canada, it's in immense opposition to these bills. This allows them to, as a reference, set the parameters of acceptable discourse. So I mean, once that happens, we're truly absent political recourse. Um, and I'm praying it's not going to get passed. I mean, it seems like they could pass whatever they want, though. So I'm not entirely optimistic on that, but I try to stay positive. What else could you really do? So Wandering Dragon, Ottawa wants us to join the EU, so you will have a premier, a PM, and a bureaucrat leading you. That definitely seems to be the direction. That's why Carney was here. And he's made no illusions regarding that. He wants to move us towards the EU. Trump, the trade war with America is providing a perfect catalyst for them to rationalize this move. The thing is that a lot of people fail to consider, and the thing that the biggest thing the mainstream corporate press isn't referencing is our trade relationship with America is relative to proximity. They're right there. And any tariff would pale comparatively to the logistics and the immensity of capital that would have to be put into transferring all of this stuff. Like between here and Europe, between here and China, it's just unrealistic. Everyone knows that. So Trump said it right at the first, like, we've got no cards. And that's why Carney's rushing to create infrastructure and transition us into a post-national globalist district, a big government socialist hellscape. It's not the federal government's role to do this. Traditionally, now in Canada, we have a Westminster Parliament system, which is immensely flawed in my estimation, but I won't get into that. But I agree with you, Wandering Dragon. I really think that's the premise. So I don't know if StreamYard is giving me all of the questions, but I got 123 people watching, and there's not very many questions here. A lot of comments, though. So Mike Kennelly, how will Trump's announcement of Antifa being listed as a terrorist organization affect Canada relations? That's a great question because, well, now Antifa, I just wanted to clarify how I feel about them. Antifa is the coordinated foot soldiers of the Open Society Soros Foundation. There's a lot of evidence that conclusively indicates that. Hence why Trump designated them a terrorist organization, because what they do is they will infiltrate these protests. You'll have 50 or 60, maybe way more, but paid Antifa protesters show up to these protests. Some of the people are legitimate protesters. They're caught up in the psyops and they're going out to use their voice in their minds. But then you'll have a bunch of Antifa paid Soros operatives that are essentially operating as provocateurs to push it towards violence, to implement all kinds of objectives. And that's what's occurring. Trump knows that 100%, and he wants to stop that. But at the same time, you got to realize, like, Carney's on the other end of this factionalization in the post-World War II order. Carney is with the EU. So Antifa, to them, that's their foot soldiers. It's funny because Rebel News had an expose regarding the gentleman that threw the smoke bomb at that Christian minister that came up, the musician Sean Feucht, I think his name is. So I mean, it turns out that the individual that was protesting this totally legal Christian songwriter's performance, he threw a smoke bomb at him. This guy's like in the Canadian military, and it's coming out. They're investigating it. So I mean, thankfully, Rebel News and the correspondent that uncovered this, like, good for you, like, because I really think this will have to be addressed. But I mean, it's Canada. I mean, look at how corrupt our country is. Look at the plethora of scandals just during Trudeau's government. just nonstop. You can't even list them all. It's and then they just investigate themselves and they move on. The Hogs report being the funniest one. Like clearly there's international influence in Canadian politics. Like you could see it. It's blatant. And but don't worry, we've investigated ourselves and we've determined that there's not. So go back to sleep, watch the hockey game and put your elbows up and keep drooling on yourselves and not thinking. But the biggest reason I started doing this podcast, because I came on X a few years ago with sincere intentions to just try to determine what's going on. I started feeding into the reactive rage bait algorithms. I can articulate myself well. I can write fairly decently too. So this pushed me in the algorithm. I started to grow all these followers, and I realized as I'm doing this, as I'm going through this about a year in, like, wow, like, what is this? It's just like some kind of sophisticated algorithmic propaganda tool where they can put emphasis on or de-emphasize any narrative they want. They can fuel the division. They can fuel this synthetic dialectic, this right-left thing, and essentially herd humanity. That's what I think the right-left thing is. I think it's how the ruling class control the people. I think in ancient times, like in ancient Rome, for instance, they utilized bread and circuses to distract the peasantry. Now in modernity, I guess bread and circuses would be Uber Eats and Netflix. But even beyond that, politics itself has become the circus. And we all totally believe it's legitimate. We get in our little political tribes and we fight with one another over inconsequential culture war things. Well, no matter which way we go, left or right, we pivot between the two in the long term. And our trajectory never alters. We're going towards more centralized control. That is the agenda, and the agenda is being implemented. With Pierre Poilievre, I said right away, not right away. I mean, I bought into Pierre. I believed him for a minute. Now, months before the election, I realized this motherfucker's just total controlled opposition. Excuse the vulgarity, but I had to put emphasis on that. I have no respect for that man at all. He's a bad actor. But I think the establishment in Canada was concerned after the trucker convoy. Obviously, they knew there was a massive contingent of the Canadian electorate that was just totally disillusioned with the role of government, with the overstepping. And they knew that was going to be a threat. And when the PPC came about, I think they were terrified of a legitimate populist party. So what do? Well, they preemptively prop Pierre up. I mean, no one else in the CPC lineup was going to be able to feign populism or to feign conservatism, really, because that's what they do. They're just part of this establishment machine. So they get Pierre going, and he's Mr. Populist. They prop him up with this synthetic dialogue, this scripted rhetoric, just very, very sloganeering, as people have said, and that captured this disillusioned part of the contingent. At the same time, in the alternative space, they have their shill accounts, the Pleb, Cat Canada. I'll name a few of them. I don't even care anymore. These people are not real. These people are either entirely audience captured or they're working directly for interests, looking to give you the same narratives, the same cultivated and manufactured narratives that you were getting from the corporate press. It's pretty bad. And that's what we're doing. Like we're being manipulated in the most profound of ways by this. But back to the premise of the story, they very much feared the PPC. Now, you could have your problems with Maxime, you could have your problems with the PPC in general, but they represented an outside party, an outside influence, and I think they really feared them. So you get all these narratives that just explode online, like Maxime owns a home in Florida and they work for the liberals and they're just trying to keep the conservatives out. It was unbelievable, the efficacy of it. So then what do we do in our little synthetic political tribes? We get on these social media platforms and we would attack each other. Instead of remembering, no matter what we think, no matter what we're led to believe, we always have more in common with each other. This crosses the whole left-right thing too. That working class left man, that really identifies with this left-leaning ethos, he's being just as manipulated as the ethno-nationalist on the other side. I really believe that too. I think this is just simply how we're heard it, and I don't think neither is the way. And I think, furthermore, it's becoming abundantly clear. It's like the illusion is really being challenged now, hence them trying to shut us all up, especially anyone who's putting emphasis on that. Listen, man, I got like 30,000 followers on X. It's not a ton. It's not a huge account. But if I go on there right now, if over the next week I start propping up Pierre and just pushing that shit, I guarantee you my numbers go up. And you could say, well, that's because people believe it, or that's because Pierre's, going to save Canada, however you interpret it. But it's very obvious that certain viewpoints are being boosted while other ones are being deboosted. And Joe Average, that's finally become disillusioned with the mainstream corporate press, they pop onto X to try to get a feeling of what's going on. And who do they get? They get the pleb, man. You know what I mean? They get the same carefully constructed narratives they were getting. And in this instance, it's in the form of an independent alternative voice. What a fucking joke. Again, I apologize for the vulgarity. I really do try to keep it clean, but sometimes a fuck is a rhetorical necessity in these times. Thank God I have this conduit. It's a very cathartic process for me because I'm petrified watching everything that's going on. I really am. I can see what the government's doing. It's pretty evident. If you understand some of these things, it's pretty evident. And then I look to everyone else and they're just fighting with each other. And no one seems to grasp the broader problems here and the broader issue. Like, the times are so politically charged and polarized presently that we've truly come to this conception that we require uniformity of ideology in order to have unity. And that's just not the case, man. It's just not the case. And that's a major problem for sure. We have to let cooler minds prevail here. More rational minds, more centered. Because again, I truly believe this right left shit is mostly bullshit. Now, I'm not saying I want to unpack that a little bit, just because I think that confuses a lot of people and I get a lot of flack from either side of this. Now, we are temperamentally predisposed to certain political leanings. And essentially, we're genetically predisposed to certain temperaments. So, I mean, we get this very naturally. It's just a fact of human behavior. So when you look at the big 5 personality dimensions, people that lean to the left tend to be high in creativity and openness. And people that tend to lean to the right are high in conscientiousness and orderliness, which makes sense. I mean, so this is what's hacked essentially by the ruling class. And like, look at all these culture war issues that take the forefront. Why? Because they put emphasis on this natural division that happens. Now, thank God, most people, this is a spectrum within the personality dimensions, the big 5. So most people are kind of in the middle and they could see relevance on both sides. And that's what we need right now. We need the center to really come out and speak up to this, because either side of this, the far left, the far right, are just the same thing. Essentially, it's going to lead to the same thing. I truly believe that, and I believe that it's being manipulated. Look at like 2008 to 2012. A lot of like pushback against, people were talking about the monetary system, the usury debt-based system, fiat currency. People were really looking at that. So what happens? Well, all of a sudden we get all these hot culture war issues pushed to the forefront, sponsored by like big banking and corporate interests. It's just obvious what's happening. They're manipulating us. We've been in a perpetual psyop for decades. We were born into a psyop. I really believe that. And I hear myself. I know how fucking crazy that sounds. I do. But again, I just feel at this point, it's very evident. Let's check for the chats here. So we got 173 people watching live. I'm going to ask everyone again, please give this a like and a share. Send it to people. There's there's a lot of insincere voices. There's a lot of big egos. There's a lot of people working for various interests, trying to inundate you with their own narratives. But underneath all that chaos, in this ocean of chaos, there are some sincere voices. You can like me or hate me, but I'm giving you my honest interpretation of things. And that's what we need. We need to put a premium on that, on those voices. Kirk Reese, my friend, 100%. Very few real podcasters. That's why I watch you. I concur. Thanks, brother. And again, man, I'm not trying to feed my ego here. It's really important when you come on social media and you want to talk to your community, to your neighbors, to your national community, that you don't let all the naysayers you'll encounter fuck with your ego. That you don't let them like convince you that your voice is not powerful. But at the exact same time, you have to make sure that you don't let it blow your head up. You know what I mean? Remember your integrity. Remember why you came on here when you had no following. Because that's what I see. I see these big people with these big selfie pictures and look at me, and they're really like celebrating themselves. And it's very transparent. It's like, fuck, man, there's broader things going on. If you haven't noticed, the ruling class is like literally endeavoring to transition our society into a technocratic, totalitarian, unrecognizable dystopia. And everyone's making it about their egos and their followers and their, and I get it, dude. Like, I'm not trying to be entirely hypocritical. I'm putting my voice in this ecosystem. But I swear to you, the premise was because I can't find honest people. Like, I really can't. There's a lot of sincere people that are just dumb. Let's get that out of the way. I hate to be mean, but I don't have the time for such pleasantries. There's a lot of dumb voices in there that convoluted. I get that. But that's not what I'm saying. It's like you get audience captured. Me, for instance, like I mentioned, like I got on here and I was into Pierre. I thought Pierre was legit. I fell into this psyop. And I have sympathy for people that do. I'm not trying to act like I'm above it all and I saw it right away. No, man, this has been a process for me. But it's just obvious at this point, Canada. We're being manipulated in the most profound of ways. We at the same time, the whole ecosystem of information dissemination has never been more convoluted. Our ruling class clearly is factionalized in some regard, and it could get totally violent. I really feel like they're trying to whip us into a frenzy. Reminds me of that old colloquialism about the ants in the jars. Like you could put, so many red ants and black ants in a jar, and they'll go on about their little ant lives and their little ant business. But if you shake the jar, they'll tribalize based upon this distinction, and they'll rip each other apart. And I really think that's what's happening in all of the Western democracies. I think our jar is being shaken economically, politically, just a perpetual psyop. And me, like everyone else, it's like I have psyop fatigue. So this I'm very grateful that I'm able to come on here and chain smoke cigarettes and ramble into the void. And even more grateful that so many of you find it helpful and watch it. So again, gratitude for that. That seems to be about the end. Oh, let's see if we can get some more questions here. JP, what do you think is going to happen with Trump and Carney's meeting tomorrow? Also, what do you think the outcome will be for Tamara and Chris? I pray that Tamara and Chris are not made examples of by this regime. But knowing how just stacked the judiciary is, knowing how our government is literally, it's like a puppet government. There's oligarchical interests that are in control of Canada. I fear that they're going to have the book thrown at them. I fear they're going to be made an example of. And I think once they pass Bill C-8 and C-9, I'm probably on the list, but I think a bunch of voices in Canada will be made examples of. Because again, that's the premise of these censorship laws, is they want it to work like the Chinese Communist Party does. Everyone just knows better than to criticize the regime. I mean, that's dystopian. That's just not our way. This is the hill, Canada. This is truly the hill. As for Carney and Trump, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure Trump will spank him publicly. I hear Trump's talking about the 51st state again. Now, I have a lot of followers that think Trump is part of this whole thing too. I don't have the certitude on that. I'm not naive to the concept that it's possible. But what I see when I look at all this is a major factionalization. And the people that truly run the Western democracies, I think they have some different visions, some conflicting or irreconcilable trajectories that they want to take us on. And I think we're seeing the repercussions or the ramifications of that with the ruling class. So essentially, to answer your question, Lane, I don't think much will come of it. I think more of the same. I think Trump was potentially being very honest when he said economic force. And I think he knew Carney would make it easier for him. That's for sure. But yeah, I really don't know. I wouldn't want to fathom a guess. Everything is just it's happening so fast that it's hard to keep track of everything and to see what's occurring. Silver, have you looked into Richard Grove's work with Tragedy and Hope, Grand Theft World? He studies the same stuff we are noticing. I haven't. I'm going to put him on my list. There's a lot of people I'm reading right now. Matthew Ehret. Sorry, I've only ever read his name. He's excellent. Jay Dyer's a repository of knowledge on a lot of this. Jay Dyer did, and it was probably almost a decade ago, he did a deep dive on Tragedy and Hope. But Tragedy and Hope, Quigley, who wrote this, he was part of this establishment. Now, he wasn't really part of it, but he was like accepted by them. And you could tell the way he writes it that he admired them. He thought it was necessary. That's why I feel Tragedy and Hope, it rings true to me with what he's saying regarding the Anglo-American Alliance, the network, the Crown Corporation, how all of these things work. But I will definitely check out Richard Grove. Thanks for the tip, bro. Sue Kellen Dyer, does not sound crazy. Political elite use psychology as they use other tools like propaganda. Absolutely. I mean, Edward Bernays, who was famously the nephew of Sigmund Freud, he figured all this stuff out about 100 years ago. It's been utilized since to manipulate public attention. And we're misdirected. Like, we're manipulated in profound ways. It really seemed to kick into overdrive lately, though. We've all noticed that. But it's abundantly clear that's what we're doing. We're in a perpetual psyop where everything is just narratives. Truth is obscured by these narratives, and they want us at each other's throat. They want us divided on every variable metric. They want us divided on age. They want the young to blame the old. They want racialism. They want, native-born Canadians to blame the immigrants. They want Indigenous Canadians to hate the white Canadians. They just want us fighting over everything. And on top of left and right, it's truly phenomenal. And I mean, when I look at all of this, when I look at everything that's happening broadly, like I'm a Catholic. I frame things religiously, and I think at the core of this is true evil. I really do. And I think it's the way we get evil, and that's through each other. So I don't think we defeat evil by becoming more divided. I think unity and love is what defeats evil, and not in some hippy dippy way. I really just think we have to realize that we have more in common with each other, no matter what, always. And we need to look up instead of looking over at each other. I truly believe that. So we got about 216. Again, give a like, give a share. Send it to whoever is interested in this type of things. I really sincerely appreciate it. Because again, like I'm deboosted. I have 30,000 followers. And lately, the last few days, it varies, but the last few days, it's like my posts are peaking at 300 views. So I get like 60 likes in 300 views. I'll get like 40 shares and it doesn't increase my view count. I'll quiz Grok. I'll cross-examine Grok. Like, what's going on with this, Grok? And the AI is programmed to just blow smoke up your ass about it. But I have frequently, and I've saved them, where Grok is like, yeah, it's fairly indicative of algorithmic suppression. Not so directly, but I mean, it's easy to illustrate this. And then I think the process of you cross-examining Grok and trying to illustrate that accounts are being suppressed, I think that further suppresses you in the algorithm. So I mean, it's not working to my advantage, that's for sure. Got Alex V3.0. Good day, JP. Good day, Alex. So yeah, there's not a ton of questions, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to tell you guys, though, I have a new podcast with my friends Payman Asghari and Chris Erickson, and this is every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do it every single week. It's called The Philosopher, the Stoic, and the Teddy Bear. We have a lot of fun with it. We tackle similar issues that I'm talking about, culture war issues, political Canadian issues, geopolitical issues. We do it all. But yeah, you want to check that out. That's every Tuesday at 3 p.m. And again, I want to thank you all for watching and following and sharing. It means a lot to me. Yeah, I can't always promise that I'm going to get things right. In fact, I'll tell you right now, I'm probably not going to get everything right. But what I can assure to you when you're following me is that I'm going to be true to my convictions, and I'm not going to let my ego get out of control. I'm trying to be a sincere voice in an ocean of chaos, and I'm really trying my best. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. My name's JP Berg, and this is Dumb the Wiser. Cheers.